The movie begins with a group of girls sitting in a shopping mall, where a girl whose name is Julia tells everyone that she is bored of her boyfriend whose name is Tommy. One of the girls also invite everyone to a party, which was happening the same day. They all decide to leave the mall. Suddenly, Julia's boyfriend Tommy arrives and scolds her for coming to the mall all alone with her friends. However, she reveals to him that she is not in love with him anymore, since he did not have time for her. This upsets Tommy a lot, which leaves him devastated. The scene is moved to a beach, where the same group of girls was talking about the party, where a random guy was showing some interest as well. Then we see the same girls criticizing all the men walking around until their eye catches a handsome hunk. Soon his eyes catch Julia and they have a glance at each other for a second before moving away. The same random guy informs the handsome hunk about the party as well, but he didn't look too excited about it. Following evening, Julia along with her friend is getting ready for the party. However, she was worried that her ex-boyfriend will also be present at the party. She finally arrives at the party and meets a popular guy called Brad. Tommy was looking at her and talks to her with pure desperation, but she was not interested. Everyone was enjoying the party. Boys and girls were looking at each other as if they were ready to have a great time. Being the party boy, Tommy approaches different women for some time until a girl finally is ready for some intense action. On the other hand, handsome guy, whose name is revealed to be Randy, arrives at the party with his friend. We can see Tommy and the girl having the time of their life. Randy's friend was trying to get into some action too. However, no girl was giving him attention. Suddenly, Randy's eye catches beautiful Julia, who was desperately looking at him as if he is the chosen one. The intense stare and smile go on for a good minute, until Randy decides to approach Julia, where Randy talks about seeing her at the beach earlier, which surprises her. While Tommy's desires were sent into a ditch after the girl stopped him in the middle of the intense action, since she wanted to be in a relationship. Unlike Tommy, Randy's friend was still on the verge to find someone. Suddenly, Tommy and his friends see Randy talking to Julia. He walks up to Randy and rudely asks him to leave. However, Randy refuses right away. All of a sudden, a flying punch comes his way and knocks Randy flat on the floor. Before things were about to escalate, Randy and his friend were kicked out of the party brutally. All this was watched by Julia and she was sad about the incident, while looking at him through the window. Randy soon leaves in his car, but not before praising how beautiful Julia was. Soon Randy stops his car in the middle of the road. Since Randy was angry at himself for getting insulted and his ego gets the best of him, they arrive back at the party furiously. Not wasting any time, Randy sneaks into the house through the washroom window and hid himself in the shower, where he gets depressed a little after watching some intense action going on by random lovebirds. His frustration does not stop here. One by one, people kept coming into the washroom and soon we could see a whole party going on inside. Eventually, Randy gets lucky when he sees the only girl he was attracted to. He calmly watches her and soon reveals himself to Julia, who was really surprised to see him. She was afraid and asked if he wanted a death wish because he came back, but the love was in the air regardless. He looked at her with love in his eyes and asked her to meet him outside the party. However, she was not sure but still decides to give it a shot, although not without her best friend who was very much into the party. Soon we can see Julia and her friend in the middle of the city looking at different kinds of people and getting worried. Finally, they reach a local bar, where the crowd was too much for them, which was quite irritating for Julia. Randy reveals this is their lifestyle, a bit different from what Julia and her friend were used to. It felt like as if Julia was losing interest in him because of the way he lived, but soon it felt as if this was just the beginning. Both were feeling a connection between them. It was clear they were falling in love with each other and kissed each other passionately in the end. Meanwhile, Julia's parents were worried about her a lot. They had no idea that Julia was having the time of her life with Randy in his car, while Randy's friend was also able to find out the missing part of him. Next morning, Randy arrives with Julia back to her house to drop her off, where he asked her to meet up tomorrow because he could not resist himself being apart from Julia. Randy kisses Julia before she goes into her house and meet her angry parents, who scolded her for staying out the whole night without informing them. The same day, Julia reveals about Randy to her friends while giving a driving test. The examiner was so scared of her driving that he jumps out of the car as if he was James Bond, and Julia ends up failing the exam. We are moved to the scene where Tommy's mother was trying to get into some action with a naive guy called Skip. However, he was hesitant about it and leaves right away. While Julia was working at her father's store, Randy shows up randomly out of nowhere, which made her hide behind her father. Randy meets up with her and charms her with his smile. Not so soon they flee from the store, leaving her parents stunned. Day by day, Randy and Julia were getting to know each other more and more. It felt as if they were finally truly happy in their life and their dreams were becoming a reality. Whether it was night talks, kissing on the beach, or eating lunch together. One day, Tommy sees them both with great wonder. Back at the school, Tommy suggested to Julia's friends that she was going to ruin her life if she stayed with Randy. It was evident that he was jealous of Randy and was willing to do anything to ruin their relationship. The group of girls were having a party night on their own. Suddenly the telephone rings and it is revealed to be the same naive guy called Skip, who was desperate to talk to stepmother who wasn't present in the house at the time. It seemed that Susie liked Skip and wanted him to ask her out, but she wasn't aware of the reality. The next day, Skip was riding his bicycle while looking a bit worried and looked at Susie's house. He eventually sneaks into the house, while anticipating to meet Susie's stepmother to pursue his desires. Soon he sees someone taking a shower and immediately his face lights up with fantasies, and soon the inevitable happens passionately. but not with Susie's stepmother but Susie herself. Soon her stepmother surprises them with her presence, while they were feeling the ecstasy of love. One day, Julia's father was talking to her about her love life, and she was confused about whom she should choose, Randy or Tommy. Her father tells her to make a decision herself wisely, and we can see she was looking very confused about her situation. The following day, Julia was being told positively about Tommy by her friends, who suggest her to give Tommy another chance. Soon, Tommy arrives on the spot, which resulted in all the girls leaving except Julia. She was hesitant about talking to him, however reveals to Tommy that she broke up with Randy. Yet, we don't know the reason why it had happened. We will discover about it later on. The same night, Randy arrives at her house and knocks on the door. Julia nervously talks to him, while showing a guilty face. Soon he realizes it was all because of her friends talking trash to her about him, which soon results in Randy shouting at her before he left devastated. He started to drink a lot and breaks the bottle in sheer anger. Later he reaches his favorite club, where he kept drinking non-stop thinking about Julia. A mysterious woman's eyes catch sad Randy drinking, who walks up to him, and it is soon revealed that she is Randy's ex-girlfriend, who hadn't seen him in 2 months. It did not take too long for Randy and her ex to go into the washroom to have some intense moments, which lasted quite a while, and we see Randy coming out of there exhausted. Randy leaves the bar, where a group of guys tease him for being drunk. There he tries to scare them, which resulted in his friend coming and taking him out of there. Randy was feeling the rush of all the emotions at the same time because of his breakup. He was willing to do anything to get rid of the feeling and ask his friend to put him to eternal sleep by hitting him with the brick. However, his friend was cheering him up and did not leave even upon Randy insisting him to. The next day, Randy enters Julia's car and tries to talk to her, but she wasn't showing any interest and pushes him out of the car. The following night, she hears that Randy played her favorite song on the radio, which makes her smile. As the days passed by, Randy was trying his best to win Julia's heart back and made her laugh by insulting Tommy in a funny way. Randy was so deeply in love with Julia that he even slept right outside of her house to win her back. When nothing worked out in Randy's favor, his best friend comes up with a mysterious plan, about which we are about to see soon. It is the prom night and Tommy comes to Julia's house to pick her up. While her father was feeling weird about it, they take some pictures and left for the prom. Julia and Tommy happily arrived at the spot and walked in. Suddenly, Randy also arrives there with his friend. Everyone's dancing and enjoying. Meanwhile, Randy was sneaking up on Julia while she was dancing with Tommy, which was indeed making Randy devastated. Not too long after, it was time for Julia and Tommy to be on stage as king and queen of the prom. But Randy shows up right before it happens and punches Tommy on his face. Things heat up quickly and Randy also gets hit by Tommy. Fight goes on while no one suspected anything, and Randy is finally able to dominate with a win against Tommy. Immediately Randy runs away with Julia, followed by Tommy and his mates. They sit in a cab and flee from the spot. Inside the car, Julia was feeling really happy about it and throws away the bracelet given by Tommy. To watch